Boy, it was a slow week here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but when business picked up, oh boy, has it picked up. Fast Friday here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was one of the most eventful that I can remember. The lack of running throughout the week combined with the qualifying boost, combined with crashing and engine explosions. This was, I'll say it, this was traditional Indy today. This is what we've been, an exceptionally entertaining day. Certainly a lot of drivers and teams very, very nervous tomorrow. Some surprises, some teams that I did not expect to be near the back or struggling. Apparently, it's crazy to see. I'll be honest, I certainly did not expect that Chip Ganassi Racing would not be anywhere near the top. I can't believe that Foyt isn't quite there right now, considering how much speed they showed last year. Honda seems to be a bit on the struggle bus. There's all sorts of things that we'll be talking about throughout this video as we prepare you for qualifying. But of course, as you've probably seen already, and if you haven't, you've clicked on this video to see, was a pretty dramatic crash today involving rookie Nolan Siegel. The 18-year-old in the 18 car got high in turn 2, pinched it off just a little bit, spun the car out, got into the wall. The car then lifted off of the ground, some air got underneath it. He slid down the back straightaway. That car is tubbed. The driver is okay. Nolan will be back tomorrow, but there is a backup car being used, and it is a road course car, the road course car that was most recently used by Jack Harvey in the Indianapolis Grand Prix. It's the same car that Nolan Siegel drove at the Thermal Club. So he has driven it before, but obviously he's only driven it on a road course, and we talked about this yesterday in the video. When you go to a backup car here at the Speedway, and actually I talked to a few team members today, you know, because the subject of backup cars has come up quite a bit after yesterday with Marcus Ericsson going to a backup car. I asked one team, which is one of the teams that we expect to be at the front of the grid here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And it sounds like to me that there really isn't a backup car, so to speak. There's at least not one ready to go. There's a parts mule of a road course car, but there is such a part shortage right now in IndyCar that really, realistically speaking, many of the teams don't actually have access to a full and complete backup car. Now, Andretti Global was one of the few teams that were able to choose a chassis that was ready to go for backup purposes. In fact, if you go over to the garage and look at Andretti Global's number 28 garage, there are actually two chassis that are not Marcus Ericsson's current chassis that are painted in the Delaware Life colors. So they already had a Speedway car kind of sitting, waiting in the wings for this eventuality. You have to think, you know, I mentioned Colton Herta yesterday flipping in 2021. I think a lot of people think about that, or they definitely thought about that, prepared ever since that happened in the past. So let's take a look at the speeds today. We'll start with the fastest overall. Now remember, many of these were affected by the tow, and if you're not aware what tow means, it means draft or aerodynamic slipstream. We'll go both ends of the Formula One and NASCAR spectrum on that description, but that can add a tremendous amount of speed to your run, so it can look a bit deceptive. So we'll also be looking at what we call the no-tow speeds here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Those are the fastest speeds that a car and driver recorded without any aerodynamic assistance. So without any further ado, it's going to be a long one because I'm going to be talking in extended length about most of these drivers. Let's look at the results from today. And first, we have to look at the fastest drivers overall. Colton Herta got a big tow to put up the 234.9 mile/hour chart-topping time today. Colton Herta has been fast throughout this week. Not quite that fast, though, at least without aerodynamic help. Kyle Larson also got a pretty big draft at 234.2 miles an hour, but he's still pretty good in the no-tow charts as well. Joseph Newgarden at 234.2. That's a legit speed. That is what that car is capable of with no aerodynamic assistance. Ditto for Scotty McLaughlin at 234.1. Alexander Rossi at 234.0. Will Power behind him, another legit time. In fact, the 3 through 6 on the fastest of the day were without a tow. So as we flip the page over to the no-toe charts, Joseph Newgarden, Scott McLaughlin, Alexander Rossi, and Will Power are all up there. The Penske cars are looking extremely strong, the strongest they've looked in probably, in terms of qualifying, half a decade at least. Maybe we could even go as far as to say a decade since the Team Penske cars have been this strong, maybe even longer. I'm thinking back to 2011, maybe 2010 was the last time I can really remember that Team Penske was this dominant leading up to qualifying. There's some hype that they can equal the only time that a team has swept the front row, 1988 Indy 500. Team Penske did that. There's a possibility, or that possibility does exist this year. Alexander Rossi and Scott McLaughlin are extremely strong. Joseph Newgarden, of course, the defending winner of this race, makes a lot of sense. Will Power still looking for his first win since 2022. Pato O'Ward, 233.3. The Arrow McLaren cars are extremely strong. They look like the strongest contenders against Team Penske. AJ Foyt Racing, we were worried about them yesterday, but Santino Ferrucci throughout the day worked on his qualifying car, got it within the window. They're still a little bit worried about their race car, but at least the qualifying car looks good. Takuma Sato struggled throughout the day to find speed, but he finally put it together, looking like the two-time Indy 500 champion that he indeed is. 233.1 for Takuma Sato. Callum Ilott rounds out the Arrow McLaren trio at 8th position on the no-toe charts. Kyle Kirkwood and Colton Herta, who have been so fast throughout this week. Kirkwood actually drew first in the qualifying order, so Kyle Kirkwood will roll off first in the best and coolest conditions for qualifying tomorrow. Felix Rosenquist, really fast. He was on the front row last year. He's with Meyershank Racing this year. Makes sense that there's speed in that car. Last driver in the 233 mile per hour bracket today. Marco Andretti, showing the Andretti Global cars have quite a bit of speed in them. 232.9 without a toe. That's unique for Marco. Rinus VeeKay has a good qualifying draw, so that 233.8 is a little bit deceptive, I think. I think Rinus is going to qualify pretty high up the field. He's never qualified worse than 4th here in 4 previous Indy 500 starts. Stingray Robb with AJ Foyt Racing. You can see how well the AJ Foyt horsepower is doing right now for Stingray, up to 14th. Kyle Larson, the 4th Arrow McLaren car with, of course, Hendrick Motorsports backing, 232.6. That's 15th overall, so it wouldn't be fast enough for the Fast 12 if we had qualified today. Ed Carpenter in 16th. The Ed Carpenter Racing cars aren't quite there right now. It's kind of surprising for cars that are so fast usually. Elio Castroneves looks like he's got one of the best race cars in the field, getting some serious 2021 vibes from Elio. 17th overall in the no-toe charts. Ryan Hunter-Reay, 2014 winner, right behind Elio, who he was combative with in that 2014 500. Romain Grosjean had a really good qualifying draw as well. I think he's rolling off 5th in qualifying tomorrow. Christian Rasmussen, the 3rd driver for Ed Carpenter Racing in P20. Christian Lundgaard, we talk about Ray Hall. They're not at the very back, but they're also not at the very front. So a little bit nervous for Ray Hall, the people in the Ray Hall team, I think, right now, but not the panic mode that it was last year. Lundgaard ahead of Tom Blomqvist for Meyershank. And here's a big story. You might have noticed that we haven't talked about the Ganassi team yet. It's because all of their cars are near or at the back, which is really hard to believe. Marcus Armstrong in 23rd spot is the fastest Ganassi car on Fast Friday. Scott Dixon, P24, a driver who has been so amazingly quick the last few years here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He's near the back. Alex Palou had an engine failure today. The pole speed track record holder had an engine failure and was only able to go, although the team did heroically change the engine today, 231.9 miles an hour. That's good enough for 25th on the board. Augustine Canapino at only 231.9 without a toe. He's got a good qualifying draw for tomorrow and actually had one of the best 4-lap averages in the field today. Pietro Fittipaldi, who had some issues with overboost. There was a concern that that was an engine. That was not true. So Pietro Fittipaldi will qualify tomorrow. He rolls off today from the 27th spot. Graham Rahal at 231 miles an hour in P28. Certainly not as high as Graham would like to be in the field. Linus Lundqvist coming back with a repaired car from yesterday at 230.9. Marcus Ericsson got his car up to speed finally. That's the backup chassis for Andretti Global, 230.7. And if we were qualifying today, here are what would be your bottom four. The last row shootout: Connor Daly for Dreyer Reinbold Racing, 230.6. Kiffin Simpson, 230.6 as well. That's a Ganassi car that would be in the back four. Catherine Legg for Dale Coyne Racing, and of course Nolan Siegel, who did not do very much running today, got upside down and is on the extreme back foot running with a road course car tomorrow that as of right now is untested. Wow. That was a lot to go over. Let's do a palate cleanser before I give you some thoughts about qualifying tomorrow. We did a segment. We did a segment on the Le Mans Indy Double yesterday, and I think it's good to talk about the real double, the NASCAR Coke 600, Indy 500 Double, and the drivers that have attempted it before Kyle Larson. Only 4 drivers in motorsports history can claim they have competed in an IndyCar and NASCAR event on the same day. It's called the Double and consists of the Indianapolis 500 and the NASCAR World 600 at Charlotte. And this year, NASCAR points leader Kyle Larson is attempting to become the 5th driver to attempt the 1,100-mile challenge. The first was John Andretti, whose IndyCar career had stalled after being dropped from Hall VDS Racing at the end of 1992, experimented through 1993 with IMSA, NASCAR, a one-off in the Indy 500 for AJ Foyt Racing, and even a brief top-fuel drag racing career. Andretti returned to the 500 the next year for AJ. He had signed a full-time NASCAR Cup Series deal with team owner Billy Hagan. NASCAR's 1994 schedule opened up a unique opportunity that had never been seen before. After the 1993 Winston, which was NASCAR's first super speedway race held under the lights, the 1994 Coke 600 was shifted to a night event, which opened up the door for John Andretti to do something never seen before: race 2 major races in one day. Andretti qualified for both, scoring an impressive top 10 in the Indianapolis 500, but failing to complete 1,100 miles after a broken crankshaft eliminated him at Charlotte. Robbie Gordon was the next driver to do the double, and would do so several times in his career. The first being in 1997 in an effort put together by NASCAR team owner Felix Sabates. Rain at Indy, though, dashed any hopes of an 1,100-mile day, and Gordon's race ended almost before it started with a frightening fire. Brash Gordon would try the double 3 more times with help from Richard Childress in 2001 and 2002, Andretti in 2003, and himself in 2004. The 2004 effort is notable after Robbie Gordon became the last driver in 500 history to be relieved, when rain caused Robbie to bail for Charlotte, and Jacques Lazier finished the race in his stead. Tony Stewart is the most notable double driver in 500 history. First trying for a team he part-owned, TriStar Motorsports, in 1999, Stewart finished 9th. Then on to Charlotte for Joe Gibbs, where he finished 4th. Stewart returned practice laps for TriStar in 2000, but did not make a qualifying attempt at Indianapolis. And in 2001, Stewart made his last attempt at the double, when a late call came from Chip Ganassi to replace the struggling Nicholas Manassian. Stewart led the race, but a collision with Michael Andretti in the pits caused Stewart to lose race-winning pace, but he still managed a lead lap finish in 6th place. Stewart improved at Charlotte, bringing his Home Depot Pontiac home in a remarkable 3rd place, and becoming the first driver to complete all 1,100 miles. Stewart flirted with running the 2004 Indy 500 with AJ Foyt, but Chevrolet blocked their NASCAR star from driving a Toyota-powered car in a race that Chevy was an active competitor. The most recent double attempt was Kurt Busch, who grabbed headlines with a rookie test with Andretti Autosport in early May 2013, with eyes on an attempt in 2014. Despite a heavy crash on the Monday practice session that year, a convenient rule change allowed Busch to keep his 12th place starting spot despite switching to a backup car. Busch hung in there all day, avoiding accidents and learning from his mistakes, and brought home a fantastic 6th place finish in his only 500 start. An engine failure in the Cup race prevented Busch from completing 1,100 miles. Okay, tomorrow. I think it's definitely Penske versus Arrow. You'll probably see Santino Ferrucci in there. Remember, it's 12 that goes through to the pole shootout on Sunday. So probably a couple of Andretti cars in there, maybe a Meyer Shank car. I think what we saw today was very representative of the speeds that all the drivers and teams are capable of. I don't think Ganassi's like sandbagging. I think they are where they are. And so the real concern, of course, is going to be the last row shootout tomorrow, and which drivers are going to end up in that, and which drivers are going to be safe. I think the Rahal team, I'll say tentatively, is probably okay, The Dale Coyne team, you're not going to have a very restful night if you're on Dale Coyne Racing this weekend. I definitely said that yesterday, and after the crash of Nolan Siegel, you're definitely thinking that today. We'll see, of course, you never know. Sometimes magic happens here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and more often than not it does. So I wouldn't totally count Nolan Siegel out. He certainly had a learning experience today. Catherine Legg didn't look that good or confident either. So, and the fact that Kiffin, Simpson, and Connor Daly, those are two drivers that I think a lot of people going into the month would have thought would be much higher up the field based on the equipment and the history. It's crazy, and the fact that the Ganassi cars are even remotely in this conversation right now is hard to believe. I mean, it's baffling to me, actually. It seems like Honda, it has had some issues for sure, reliability-wise, and we like reliability being an issue because that's exciting. It means that there's total unpredictability in the race when things like that happen, but Honda does not have the speed that they had last year, and in fact, the Ganassi team in particular does not have the speed that they had last year. Now, typically, when the boost gets put to the engines, the Chevys get the advantage. We expected that going in, but what we didn't expect was that Andretti Global was going to be the lead Honda team. Did not expect that coming into this. I thought for sure it would be Ganassi, and that Ganassi is really towards the back of the field, and there might be at least one of their cars in the back four, which is really hard to believe for me, but that's where we are. So I think it's going to be a very, very hectic day tomorrow. Who knows what's going to happen? I guess I'll reiterate what the format is before we go. We're setting the Fast 12 that will run for pole tomorrow, or 2 days from now, on Sunday. Tomorrow we are locking in. Well, really, we're locking in the first 30 spots. We're going to know who the top 30 starters in the Indianapolis 500 are going to be. We just don't know how the deck's going to get shuffled yet. The positions from 13th to 30th will be locked in. Those rows will be complete. Those will not change. Those drivers will not come back out until the Monday practice session on Monday, of course. They won't be seen on Sunday. And then, of course, the drivers who qualify in the last 4 spots tomorrow, 31st through 34th, will have to go into the last row shootout, and one of those drivers on Sunday will be sent packing, going home. They will not participate in this year's Indianapolis 500. So it's this is where it gets exciting. This is where the memories are made. This is where legends are born. Qualifying for the Indianapolis 500 is tomorrow, and it's going to be a heck of a weekend. And the coverage is going to be right here. I hope you guys tune in, subscribe for more. Thank you guys so much for watching.